Depot Park. So for Depot Park, this was a park that, of course, we have discussed, and it's been in our CIP for completely redoing the playground and redoing everything going all the way to the river. This one, we have had a lot of public input, especially from the neighbors in Nothing Like It and the State Streets, of building a more destination playground. So something more large scale that actually kind of fits in with the BERT trail as well. So we do have different groups that have looked at different renderings and things like that of what a destination playground could look like, because we do have a lot of space here and it would serve a lot of children in the area, that this would be a great fit for that large destination type playground. So this was at the top of the list in the park master plan feedback of wanting to revamp this park. Redo the restroom facilities, redo the playground entirely, make it for all ages, because currently it's mostly a tot lot for small kids. And then it would be looking at what sort of facilities we would have on the river, because currently we did have the little fishing platform was destroyed during Hurricane Ian. It's not built to current code, so we would be ripping it out, and then what type of facility would we want to put in there? That would also not flood every time the river goes up. So those are different things that we would be looking at.
Are we going to be able to rebuild that little fishing area, though, the dock?
Well, that's what we would be looking into with feedback. So this one, Depot Park, may be a whole public workshop in itself of just this park and what people would like to see. Because this one was had a large group of people wanting a lot of input for this facility.
What's the acreage of Depot Park? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, I believe it's going from all the way to the river 2.5, maybe.
A little over 3 acres.
Yeah, something around there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But you have to realize right now, the 100 feet off the railroad is not part of the park. That is railroad property.
Yeah, part of the right of way.
Yep, so I can't build anything in that 100 feet on either side without their permission or lease.
Until the new owners take.
But anything that we do and would look at for Depot Park, as well as what we've done with Riverside Park, which I'll get to, is looking at that connection for BERT and making sure that they're cohesive with whatever we do with that trail. Next are the Riverside Park renovations. So we are very happy that phase 1 is complete, and we did it before Halloween, so I'm very happy that we did still get to do the stroll. Even though some things are blocked off, the tree is moved. So we're very happy, and this was completed before their contracted time for completion, which is very nice. We are currently in finalizing the design, and we'll be going for permitting for phase 2. And that construction timeline, we really want to let everyone realize that phase 2 is going to be much more intensive. So we are working on the interior of the park. The phase 1 was a little less intensive in terms of it being the exterior and working out all of that and perimeter sidewalks and things like that, where phase 2 is really putting in all of that infrastructure, additional electric, so that we've met with all of our vendors for our holiday stroll. So we met with our holiday lighting vendor, we've met with sound vendors. So that way, because this is going to be artificial turf, so we need to do it right the first time. It's not like we can rip it up and do it again, or dig it up and things like that. So this timeline is going to be quite a bit longer than the first one. So we are looking at early April. This will shut down again. So we want to make sure that all council is aware of that, as well as the public, that in order to complete this project, we do have to start as early as possible. So we've been working with Laura and her team on the events, and we are slated for starting in early April, and this will run until that November timeframe. So that does mean, and I know, Nigel, you and I have talked about it for Memorial Day, we will not be able to have that at Riverside Park, but we've discussed alternative locations. For example, possibly the Lyles area and the Lyles Plaza. We are going to do our best in everything possible to still have 4th of July. So that's going to be our hard one, of how we stabilize it so that 4th of July still stays in this area. But beyond that, it's everything else is going to have to be canceled until we get this completed. So that was just something we wanted to make sure everyone was well aware in advance that it is going to be offline. But once it's done, it will be beautiful and we'll be very happy. So this was phase 1, so all the perimeter areas of the park. And here are some of those construction photos that we have. The big one is the tree moving. That was actually pretty exciting to see and how they actually pulled that off. And the bottom left is the tree in place, so it worked. And it actually fits perfect in the tree line. You would have thought that it was meant to be there. And a little fun fact, this tree has been moved. This is its second move. It went from Depot Park to Riverside, now to the perimeter of Riverside. So this is a very resilient tree. So, and we save trees, so just putting that out there, we saved it. And but these are some of the construction photos that you can see, the different brick pavers and vendor nodes and landscaping and all the different things. The perimeter is ADA compliant now. The sidewalks are much larger. Instead of those small, and it kind of made you bottleneck a little bit on different areas of the perimeter of the park. Now they're wide, 10-foot, 12-foot sidewalks, depending on the location. So much wider, much more accessible. And phase 2 will just make it even more. So next, you did approve at your last meeting to add the additional lighting that goes all the way down to the Lyles. So all of those lights will be completed, not now because we're in event season, but all of that, those light poles, that will all reflect the same sort of light fixtures with the arms for banners that are along Old 41. So that was approved at your last council meeting. And then here's the final of what it will look like. It's going to be so much more ADA compliant. It's going to have a lot more flow. It's going to be a lot more user friendly, as well as a much larger space in the center. We no longer have a tree blocking the stage. We do still have a tree in the background, but it won't block the stage. And it also has, if you look, it does have that connection to the new Banyan Park that's going to be across Old 41, where the sheriff's substation is now, in Banyan Tree, as well as that connection to the Burt Trail and different nodes of where you can have entry into the park. So we do have a lot of events, say, for example, Brewfest or any of these festivals that gate or fence off the park. You will actually have entryways now into the park. So if you're ever down there, I mean, I'm sure most people are, but if you go down there, even now, you can see the perimeter is completely changed than how it used to be. So it's much more user-friendly than it was before. And we're going to have much more shade. I know people are concerned because we moved the tree, but the shade is going to be more. We're adding a lot more landscaping. We're adding a lot more oak trees so that we have this shade canopy along the perimeter of the park. So we are adding a lot more.
With the seating, will there also be like tables for people to eat at?
We're going to have them spread throughout the park. So we are taking out 2 of the shade structures are already gone. And the remaining 3 are going away as well. And we will have actual different seating areas throughout the park now instead of just in those pavilions. So now we're going to have much more seating than we had before.
I know people were upset when we took the benches out before and we put them back. But today somebody asked, "Where's the tables?" You know, they usually eat lunch there. So I told them, well, next summer when we redo everything,
Right.
there should
Then
be,
that's when they'll be replaced, because at the current time, the tables that we had were all removed. Some of them we removed because they were broken, and we didn't replace them because we were changing out all the furnishings. So it just didn't make sense to purchase new ones that didn't match the rest of the park until we're ready to go. Next, I wanted to talk about the Lyles Hotel Plaza. You did hear the presentation from DPZ. These are the existing conditions. You did vote in that meeting to, you had a motion and a vote for us to work with DPC of phasing this project or getting those small projects that we could work with now. And one of those is, if you look at the fountain that we have in this picture, that is in need of replacement now. So those are things that we're going to be looking at. We do have funds in the current CIP, so it's at its lifespan, and those are things we're going to have to start doing. So that's what I wanted to kind of put a little feeler out there, letting you know that this is the stuff that's going to be coming up in CIP. But I will be working with Javier on different phasing options and different options of what we can do in terms of what items we want out of the visioning. I mean, it's fantastic, but not everything was what everyone wanted or things like that, that we would look at different options.
Nigel?
Nicole, you did a good job last night explaining to the Art and Public Places Board, and it was interesting, some of the feedback we got from them. But when you say replace the fountain, we're talking about the mechanism or actually replacing the fountain itself, which I, by the way, really like.
Both.
Replacing the entire fountain?
Yes. So the fountain itself is over 20 years old now at this point. And no, but once the interior portion is concrete, and with chemicals and things like that, you have to refurbish different parts of the fountain. We could leave it as it is and refurbish it, or we can make changes. That's why I'm saying now's kind of the time when we can think about, do you want to make changes to it or just refurbish it exactly as it is? That's an option.
When is the time to make that decision?
We will be looking at, this will be,
In this next coming fiscal year,
Correct.
we'll be looking for options to ask for council, but also, we do know the pumping mechanism absolutely has to be.
Absolutely.
Oh,
has to
that
be
makes
done.
sense. I hate to see the design
When you look
go away.
into the design, when you look into the mechanism, if we're going to make those changes, this is the time to ask the decision of council, which if you like to keep it the same and refurbish it and update the pumping system, or if you wanted to see a change, there would be, this would be the time to discuss
These were options of DPZ. I'm not saying that either of these would be something we would do necessarily, but the one on the right is more keeping it the same, just putting seating around it if you wanted to, where the other one on the left is a little more elaborate. Well, it's a lot more elaborate. So these are the times when what we have to do is currently we have the pumping mechanism needs to be put above ground because it keeps getting flooded. So that needs to be completely changed out and above ground. If you do make a decision to make it bigger, we need to know that before we're putting in new mechanisms, because you have to have different mechanism for the different size. So that's why we need to make a decision if we're leaving it the same and just refurbishing it, or if we want to make that change. Now is the time to make those sort of decisions. And these are just some of the renderings of the DPZ studies enhancement options. We did receive a lot of feedback from the top right-hand corner of that smaller stage. The artists in the current cottages really would like to see that open up more, and that could be a big user area into that lawn. So if you open that up versus you see on the bottom right, that's what it looks like now. So it's really cut off from the rest of the park. Whereas if you did something like the top right, it really opens up that whole area. And we've gotten a lot of feedback in regards to shade. So the shade sails and the lighting and things like that going across it was overwhelming of the amount of people that want additional shade. That was actually the number one thing in our park master plan was shade. So those are different things that we're going to be looking at. And then lastly is that banyan tree park that's going at the substation banyan tree location. This is a design build project with great construction. This is the splash pad, restroom facilities, lighting, a lot of different lighting, open space, connectivity to the library and Riverside Park, as well as highlighting the banyan tree. So here are some renderings of what that will look like. Restroom facility on the bottom left, the splash pad in the center, and connectivity throughout with shade, and all the lighting. So we are working with Wright Construction and RVI are working together so that we can have a cohesive lighting plan for Riverside Park and the Banyan Park so that they're all the same. So that way it's not wonky and different. So we will be working on making sure that those are very similar and cohesive. And here are just some more photos.
Nicole, I know we've discussed it, and it's my pet peeve about this is we're not going to get crazy on features, are we? Because that's the biggest
Nope.
problem all these cities have is the darn things are shut down 6 months a year.
Nope, it's going to be, as you see here, it's going to be minimal features. So when it's not functioning as a splash pad at night, it could function just as a fountain.
Or with the LED features, great.
Yep.
I just like give them rocks and sticks to play with. They're fine.
Oh, no, it's just, it's beautiful, but you look at all the beautiful ones around the country and they're shut down 6 months a year.
And one thing I wanted to, I do not have a slide because my slides are actually complete. I do want to bring up that we are in partnership with Barron Collier for a public park on their property. I have been working with them in terms of, I mean, even this week we were discussing fire pit options. So we are doing and going through that public park process. So that is a project that is also on my list that we're working on, as well as our partnership with the Wonder Gardens. Unfortunately, Neil couldn't be in conjunction with me tonight, but he will be coming up at one of your December meetings to discuss the projects that they have going on at the Wonder Gardens as well. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Any other questions?